they have 20 minutes to do justice. I want to plead to the next organizers that we need more than 3 days. It should be 5 days. Because there are a lot of questions people want to ask, but we are constrained with time. So next organizers, whoever will be taking it, should do it for 5 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the sessional leader. You're leading us very well. The honorable speakers and their representatives also, distinguished members of this great delegation, good afternoon. Now, leading in a time when our concentration level is a bit low, we will try with my brother our level best to make it good and exciting for us. I wish not to take my time because our leadership has requested that we limit to 20 minutes. A lot can be said, but I'm very happy to be part of the 4th conference, as we have been from the other conferences before. We are leading into adoption of the charter, and we are talking to the last points that will make this charter realizable and make it workable in terms of saving family and the future of our community. I wish to conclude my remark before I invite my brother by mentioning 3 questions. 1, we are asking ourselves and addressing a very important issue of self-preservation. Some people think we are competing with these other characters with their numerous letters. That's not our business. Our major business is about our self-preservation. Can Africa exist in another 100 years? Can this man and woman still be available in history? That's what we are asking ourselves. Is what we are engaging in preserving or destroying our people? And whether we have the will and the choice to preserve the future of our people. So we are asking, is every measure that we are taking as governments and societies are geared towards preserving our people? So sometimes when we hear people arguing, they think we are competing with LGBTQ or any other crazy definitions. We are asking ourselves. Then the second question is that the global north have practiced this over the last 65 years and trying to make it a reality. We are asking ourselves, what is the impact on their society? Is it giving them a future of hope or a dark future? So that we should ask ourselves as the continent and developing countries of the world, whether we should go to that direction. And finally, we are asking ourselves the question. We are witnessing a decline of population in certain parts of the world, and we are seeing a surge and continued progressive growth of populations in the world. The question is, I am a social scientist, why you discover that societies that are pro-family are growing, and societies that are promoting individualism and these other freedoms are declining. So something is wrong, and we cannot follow anything that comes. So as we discuss and as we bring this conference towards what we would call a resolution, maybe in some few, by tomorrow or the day after, we must be looking at the takeaways that it's possible to use it as a statement to influence our public and our leadership in our various countries to make this a priority. We need to protect our people and nations, and we should not follow any other program blindly without looking and asking ourselves the right question. With that, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't have time, may I invite my colleague in this to take us through, and then a few questions before we break for lunch. I think those are good questions as we go for lunch today. Karibu ndugu.
Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to all of you excellencies and honorable members of parliament. It's a pleasure to join you here, and let me once again take the opportunity to say thank you to my very good friend, the Honorable Susan Opendi and the Honorable Ashems Songwe, who I would say that between the three of us had a conversation about 5 years ago about a family values conference. And I'm happy that from that conversation between three minds across the continent, Malawi, Kenya, Malawi, Uganda, and Ghana, today the whole of Africa, we're holding our 4th conference here in Ghana. I've been asked to speak on data protection and safeguarding cultural heritage in the context of technology, artificial intelligence, and digital governance in Africa. And we've got I double as the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations here in Ghana. I'm just going to try and run through this, but the African family today is a proud institution that is under unprecedented digital assault. And why do I say we are under unprecedented digital assault? The average daily screen time for the African youth is 7 hours. Now, consider that you spend 8 hours sleeping, you're supposed to spend 8 hours working, and you're supposed to have 8 hours for other activities. 7 hours for every African young person is spent on a screen. 62% of African youths, or teens actually, so that's between the age of 13 and 19, are exposed to pornography online even before they turn 15 years. The rise in cyberbullying across sub-Saharan Africa is 3 times the number. We're seeing a rise in young people committing suicides. People, because of the way the African context is, are not tracing the story behind this increasing number of suicides among young people, but cyberbullying is a big one. At the Cybersecurity Authority, which is one of the agencies I oversee, we're dealing with an increasing number of cyberbullying cases. 78% of African children's content come from foreign platforms. So your kids, your grandkids are spending time, and 78% of the content that they listen to is from a foreign platform. 1 in 3 African parents are reporting that their children have gone wayward. They've lost the African value of respect for parents, and that's coming from online platforms. And you just need to take your time and listen to what our kids are watching and your grandchildren are watching online, and you'll be shocked at what they are being told is the new norm for dealing with parents. And there's 40% drop time, or drop in family meal time, which is correlated with smartphone use. Now you see families, even when we get the opportunity to sit down to eat, we don't have conversations as Africans. Growing up, meal time was family time. It was a time for us to talk. Our parents got to know what was going on with us. We got advice from our parents. Today, the parent is eating, but he's responding to emails. The child is eating, is watching an online video. 40% in the quality of time that we've spent. The problem gets even deeper. The digital platforms that your kids are listening to are built in a particular manner. It's not by happenstance that what is happening is happening. It's well orchestrated engineering. There's algorithmic parenting. And what that does is the platforms are giving recommendations on a daily basis to deliver content to African children that the parents never see, the parents never approve, and often contradict what our household values are, because the algorithms are not trained on African values. There's a deliberate value injection. Today, they have gender deconstruction, they have hyper-individualism and anti-family narratives online for our kids. And this is not accidental, it is intentional. And what they do is they're using this to dilute the Africanness of our homes and the next generation of Africans. The algorithms are bypassing the elder as well. Today, it is, for millennia, the African identity has been a respect for the elderly and our communal living. Today, the new generation of Africans have no respect for the elderly, and family councils and elders and community ceremonies are now a thing of folklore and a distant past. It's no longer what we do today. Digital platforms have inserted themselves as the primary socialization background for a whole generation. The algorithms are addictive by architecture. Ask yourself why a simple song addicts children in Eswatini, in Malawi, in Ghana. Baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark. And you see that children, irrespective of what their mother tongue is, are addicted to that song. That is social engineering. That's the power of artificial intelligence. The brains of kids, babies, were studied to understand the sound that their brains react to, and that was used to develop the melody behind that song. And that's the amount of money and investment that's going into changing the mindset of our children. It's addictive by architecture. Children want a tablet. A child will take a tablet instead of a plate of food today, simply because of how addictive. The brain that is being formed is being addicted to the rush that they get from the platforms. And that's the generation of Africans that we're building. Community fragmentation is happening at scale. Today, we all have thousands, tens of thousands of followers. On X alone, I have over 300,000 followers. Truth is, I barely know even 100 of them in person. But that's the community that we're all building. We're building huge communities of following online, but in reality, when was the last time you picked a vehicle, drove to your friend's house, and sat with them to have a face-to-face conversation? We're losing that identity which makes us African. The whole essence of Ubuntu, that I am because you are, no longer exists. It's replaced by how much click I can get and how much likes I can get. The AI systems that are shaping Africa's youth are in a foreign language. And that, for me, is one of the biggest problems that we have. What AI does to the African child, it recommends foreign-produced content that normalizes alien values to our African families. And so the values that are being taught to our children are alien to us as Africans, and that's what artificial intelligence does. The content moderation that many of these AI tools have will flag our African outfit. I'm dressed in a traditional Ghanaian smock. The AI algorithms will flag this as not meeting community standards. Our Eswatini brothers are dressed in traditional Eswatini outfit, African beauty. It will be flagged as indecent exposure. Meanwhile, that same AI tool will not flag a white lady in a bikini as flouting communal standards, because our African values have not been put in the AI tools and into the AI moderation models. This is what we're dealing with. The AI tutoring platforms exclude our history, our culture, our values, and our epistemologies. The things that make us African, whether you're from the north, the south, the east, or the west of Africa, the uniqueness of our Africanness is excluded from the algorithm biases that we face today. And that's the world that the young Africans are living in. Beauty and social validation. The AI trains African girls to reject natural appearances. And so you'll see all the apps, they all have filters. And what do those filters do? They take away your natural face and give you artificially made up European looking faces. So our African women think that African beauty is not the same. Meanwhile, I always say, you can bleach black and make it look white, but you can never color white and make it black. Black does not break. And the AI chatbots will answer children's questions about identity, about sex and religion without the African context. And so they will teach our children that it is okay to have two mothers or two fathers, but that is not African. That is not who we are. But that's what the AI chatbots are teaching our children. And our children, many parents do not know, your children and grandchildren are on gaming platforms like Roblox, where pedophiles are allowed to open accounts and pose as children, and a lot of sexual online grooming is happening. And I'm not speaking about this just from an African context. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in the US, where pedophiles are being arrested for having groomed 16, 14, 13-year-old kids on these children gaming platforms. But the gaming platforms are not putting in place the security measures to protect our children. And it's happening here in Africa, but because we don't have the right reporting mechanisms, nobody is flagging this. And so when you look at this, in this room, what languages are we interpreting in? What languages are present here? English, French, Arabic, Portuguese, Spanish. None of this is an African language, but this is a meeting of African members of parliament. It tells you part of the foundational challenge, and so AI follows it. 92% of the data that the tools are trained in is in English, 4% in French. African languages make up only 2%. And so tell me how we're going to be able to translate our future to our young people. Now, the problem here is AI is driven by data. Artificial intelligence is only as good as the data that it generates. 80% of African personalized data is processed outside the continent. And that's why, as Minister for Communication, we've given an instruction that every data that is hosted or that involves Ghanaian national data must be hosted locally. And we've put a ban and a stop to hosting of our national data outside in data centers outside of our country. We will host our own data in our own country. The estimated value of African data that is being mined externally is $40 billion a year. $40 billion. That's the value of our data that's being generated every year. How much of that comes to Africa as royalties from big tech? 0%. Not one peso comes back to us. 5 of the top tech companies, American companies, process African data. And just 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump signed an executive instrument, an executive order, mandating that all new AI applications must be submitted 30 days before they go public to the US government. Ask yourself, why is the US government interested in the AI solutions and tools that are coming to the African continent? Ask yourself, and I see my executive director for the Data Protection Commission is in the room here. I referred to him a memo that had been, or an agreement that had been sent to the government of Ghana by the US government on health data. Sadly, some African countries had already signed. When that came up at cabinet, I said to the cabinet, I said, that is not a health agreement, it's a data agreement. And we did a report in 24 hours and submitted to the president, and I'm proud that our president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, wrote to the US government and said, take your money, Ghana will keep our data. We will not sign that agreement. Because a US mandated health agreement that asked us to submit Ghanaian health data to US government for the next 30 years gave us no control over our own citizens' health data, and said that any dispute we had will be settled by US law and not Ghanaian law. Tell me why they need that data. Very simple. US health tech companies are producing medication that is not working for the African continent. And they need your health data to be able to design the medication that they will sell to you and make profit. And that's why they offered 100 million, 200 million to all African states to hand over our African data. Members of Parliament here, if your governments have not signed yet, lead the opposition to that. African data must remain African. There are 5 concrete threats that I'll highlight here. Child sexualization, anti-family ideological capture. I could take my time and go into all of this, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just quickly run through them. intergenerational knowledge rupture, cultural shame and identity erasure, and digital addiction that is destroying family time. Honorable members, your excellencies, it's important that we understand the danger that we face with pornography. And I keep saying that, look, we don't need to rewrite the script. Today in the United Kingdom, for you to access a pornographic website, you need to put your driver's license for them to be able to determine that you are 18 years. Ask yourself why they're doing that. Because they've seen the danger and the damage that pornography and over-sexualization have done to a generation of young UK citizens. And that's why for us, we believe that in Ghana here, and we're working with going to cabinet on that, to make sure that before you access any X-rated site, you must put either your driver's license or your national ID card, so that we know who you are and who is going to that site, to prevent children from being exposed to such content. This is the real threat. Because when a child is over-sexualized at an early age, it affects their development, it affects their thinking, it affects even their morality and their values and their standards. And the only way to break a people is to go after the children. Because when the children are destroyed and damaged, that culture, that culturalization gets damaged. The fight against Africa is not against those of us sitting in this room. We are a lost case. The fight is against our children. And that's why when myself and my colleagues in Ghana introduced the Family Values Bill, one of our key arguments has been that we're fighting for the innocence of Ghanaian children, because our children must be protected and safe. We were protected by our parents in an African family setting. We must do same for our children and grandchildren. I'll quickly jump to the governance void. And in the governance void, what we see is that who makes the rules? The platforms that your kids are on, that our children, the young people of our countries are on, who makes the rules? Facebook sits in California and determines what is called community standards. Whose community? Does the Facebook community standards set in California understand what the people of Ningo and Pram Pram call community? Or do they know what is community in Hashem's constituency in Malawi? Or in Sarah Opendi's constituency in Uganda? Did they consult you to understand what the community standards of Africa are? No. They set those community standards. And the things that are values to us are excluded by that standard. And the things that our community standards truly abhor are allowed for our children. YouTube's content policies determine which African cultural videos are demonetized. You hear about our young people and our young content creators. One of the biggest challenges I have as minister is that my young creators say, Sam, get us monetization. We want to make money from the content that we put up. The whole concept of monetization is about control, economic control. If our young content creators know that a certain kind of video will get them more money from the platform, they will push that kind of video. What kinds of videos get the most money? Videos that show disrespect for the elderly, videos that are anti our African values. Meanwhile, videos that educate and videos that promote African values get less monetization on these platforms. So it's a systemic thing. That you put up, you're a content creator and you put videos that build an African identity, you don't get money for those videos. You put up content that is anti-African values, you get money for those videos. And that's the incentive behind the monetization. And that's why as a continent, as one country, we can't fight this. Ghana alone cannot fight this. Nigeria alone cannot fight this. We must become united at the AU level to say this is our position and bring them down there. And let me tell you, honorables, we underestimate the amount of power that we have. By 2030, 1 in every 3 human beings is going to be African. The AI data sets need our data. And so we must bring them to the table at our own terms. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, is afraid to travel to Brussels. Why? Because the EU will arrest him if he sets foot in the EU. The EU is about 460 million people. That's just like West Africa. Nigeria alone makes up almost that number. Africa is 1.5 billion people. Apple is one of the biggest technological companies in the world. The EU, a coalition of 450 million people said, we're not happy that you have a different type of charger, so change your charger. And Apple had to listen to the EU. Now, Apple is going to begin to make new phones that allow you to take out the battery. Why? Because the EU said so. That's the power of collectivity, the power of unity. If 450 million people in the European Union can do that, imagine what 1.5 billion of us in the African Union, if we make our voice one, can do as a continent. We will shape these platforms, but they divide us, and we allow ourselves to be divided. Until we unite, we cannot fight this battle. TikTok's algorithm is shaped by US-China wars. Nobody's talking to the African Union. Meanwhile, their biggest users are on our continent. Only 33 of our 54 member states have data protection laws. Honorable members, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Ghana has a law, Nigeria has a law, Malawi has a law. Just pick that law and also replicate same. Because we have the Malabo Convention. We are more alike than we think we are. Who is enforcing all of this? African parliaments, and that's the heading I put there. I said African parliaments have ceded our legislative chambers to Silicon Valley. Let us reclaim our position as legislators. We make the laws. We determine what our people must do. Let us not cede our power to Silicon Valley. What can we do? Ghana has already, I'm using Ghana because I serve as Minister for Ghana in that capacity when it comes to digital technology. In 2012, we passed the Data Protection Act. As far back as 2012. And as we speak now, we're reviewing that law. In 2020, we passed the Cybersecurity Act. As we speak, we're reviewing it again. Because in 2012, when we passed our data protection law, there was nothing like artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence. So we're bringing it up to speed to meet the realities of today. In 2023, we passed an online safety policy to protect our children. In 2024, we passed the Family Values Bill. It wasn't accented to. We brought it back again. We passed it last Friday. And we'll keep pushing until the president accents to it. And just in April this year, we did it in 2025, but we launched the national AI policy in 2026. And what we've done with our AI policy is to mandate that our AI policy must respond to Ghana's own indigenous needs. And so we're not going to import AI wholesale. It must sit within our national plan. The 3 pillars of action for Africa's parliament, and I've taken my time to break this down. I'll share the slides as well. But 1, digital family protection. We must make sure that age-appropriate design codes for all platforms 7 minors. We can pass the legislations, and they will have to mandate with it if we do this as the African Union. We also need to make sure that platform liability for child harm and harmful content exposure. Today, you know that we don't take our time to read the terms and conditions. But the terms and conditions state they have what they call a safe harbor provision. That safe harbor provision has been taken out in the EU. But what it means is if you can establish that your child was affected by content online, cyberbullying led to either a medical condition or the suicide of your child, that the platform is liable. But in Africa, they have a safe harbor provision that says even if the platform led to the danger that was caused to your child, you cannot bring any action against the platform. And we're sitting down as African legislators and doing nothing about this. We need to wake up and begin to deal with this. We must have family values digital standards in our local African languages. We must push for that. We must have mandatory digital literacy that's rooted in our African cultural values. And so the second one is on AI governance and cultural preservation. We must mandate AI impact assessments for education and public services. Here in Ghana, we're doing that. Right now, I have an AI focal person in every one of our 23 government ministries who reports to my ministry, and we're making sure that every AI deployment across all of government runs through our ministry to be sure that the quality and the standards that we've set are maintained. Yes, I'm getting pushback from the tech society. I have Ghanaian techs who are fighting me. But I know that behind that sits the big tech that is not happy about what we're doing. But look, we will not have a digital Wild West in Ghana, and we must not have a digital Wild West in Africa. That space must be regulated, and will be regulated in a way that does not stifle innovation, but in a way that protects our African identity and the innocence of our children.
I think it's wonderful. We give him a few minutes to conclude, right? More? Right, so, bash.
I'm running through because I know the time is...
All right.
Moderator, I'll wrap up in 2 minutes. We must publicly fund digital oral translations and traditions and indigenous knowledge. We're building, and President Mahama announced a $250 million national AI compute center. I took that memo to cabinet with one vision. Ghana cannot continue to build AI innovation on the back of Western models. We want to own our own models and build our own models. And the good thing is we're not doing this just for Ghana. We're doing this for Africa. We're building an AI compute center that will serve the entire African continent. And so working with our universities, we're building national language models. We're building in 7 key Ghanaian languages. And then we're also building in African languages. We're building in Creole, we're building in Swahili, we're building in Hausa, in Yoruba, because we want to be able to share what we build from Ghana with the rest of Africa, because we must own our own compute infrastructure. The first phase is $250 million. We're trying to push it. We're going to build what we call the national language model, the Ghana charts, that will be able to, because we spoke about agric, we spoke about all the other things. Today we want to give solutions to our farmers, where you don't need an agric extension officer to go and check what is wrong with the plant. You can use your mobile phone to scan the plant. But the question is, many of our farmers do not speak the languages in which these applications are in. So how do we put those solutions? And that's why for me, a language like Dagbani, or a language like Bono or Chi, or Nzima, which deal with our key farming areas, we're building national language models in that, so that when a farmer who is farming cashew in our Bono region, which is where we farm a lot of our cashew, takes that application, he can speak in Bono to the application. And the model, AI model we have built in conjunction with our universities, will be able to interface with whatever platform it is, get the solution, and give him back a response in his mother tongue. That is what technology must do for us. And so I urge you to all adapt this. We must fund this, and we're doing this with our academia. So your universities are critical in doing this. So we're having KNUST, University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, work extensively with the traditional authorities. Because you see, when you take the traditional language, and for those of the Ghanaians, if you take the word nu, which is written NU, which is inflection in my mother tongue of Ghana, depending on how you say it, the meanings are different. When you say nu, it is man. When you say nu, it is drink. Nu is water. So the same NU, depending on the inflections that are put on it, could mean multiple things. And that's why we must work with traditional authority to explain and own this. Data sovereignty and cross-border data flows, very important for me. We must make sure that our data is stored locally. Many of us are adopting all kinds of AI systems and fingerprint systems, and our national databases are sitting on servers in Northern Ireland and in the Middle East. That must end. African data must sit on the African continent. There is a reason why the US does not allow any US citizen data to even be hosted in Europe. And now the EU has also passed a new resolution from this year restricting the hosting of any European data outside of the EU. Because data centers have now become a critical thing. At the last ITU meeting in Geneva in May, I moved a resolution which we are going to take to PP, which will be sponsored by Ghana, to exclude data centers from during periods of warfare, like the way hospitals and schools are. Because today those data centers are the ones that power your hospitals and your schools. And we saw from the US-Iran war, data centers sitting in Bahrain were attacked. There's a reason why data centers are being attacked. Imagine if your national immigration database is sitting in a foreign jurisdiction and that database, that data center gets attacked, what happens to your national sovereignty? But even as we talk about national sovereignty, we must be able to agree on what cross-border data we want to flow, especially as we push the African Free Continental Trade Area. So we would strike a fine balance between allowing seamless flow of data, but also holding what is critical for our national sovereignty. And I think that what we must do is to ratify the Malabo Convention without delay in the countries that don't have it, and we should have a pan-African digital governance body with treaty-level authority. I think that that's very critical for all of us. These are the details of the three different pillars I spoke about. I'll skip that. A compact for African family digital sovereignty, a call to like-minded legislators. This is where I think we must go. We must pass a Digital Family Protection Act in your parliament. So these are the 5 things I want every MP in this room to take back home. A Digital Family Protection Act must be passed in our various countries. We must establish a parliamentary AI. We must establish a parliamentary AI. I'll just go back to my, maybe the AI is not happy with the things I'm saying. We must establish a parliamentary AI and digital oversight committee with family protection in their mandates. We must have those committees in parliament. We must ratify the Malabo Convention and enact domestic data sovereignty legislation in countries that have not done that yet. 4th, we must refuse trade agreements that compromise African digital sovereignty and data rights. We must refuse such agreements in our parliaments. It makes no sense for anybody to be offering you support for agricultural help and adding sexual and reproductive health rights as part of the terms and conditions of something in agriculture or trade. What is the correlation? We must scrutinize this very well. And let us be clear, there are people who walk in the corridors of African governments, power of African governments, who are compromised and who will smuggle this in. But we stand as gatekeepers in parliament to ensure that we protect the African value. And the 5th thing is that we must co-sponsor an African Inter-Parliamentary Digital Family Protection Declaration. And that's what the African Charter that I hope we pull out of Accra from this summit will do. That when we finish with that charter, we lay it before the African Union. And I hope we lay it before the African Union before the end of this year. So that by February next year, when President Mahama becomes the next AU chairperson, he has something on his table that he has to push as an African Family Values Charter on the African continent. What Ghana is offering, because yes, we're saying do this, but we've already taken steps as Ghana. We can share the Family Values Bill as a model legislative template. We provide Ghana's Data Protection Act as a drafting resource, and that's something I'm available to give you our existing legislation and even our current draft that is going to Cabinet, which has been updated to deal with AI and all of those. We'll continue the Pan-African Parliamentary Forum on Digital Family Protection. This must not end. Sarah and Hashem's, this must continue. We must lead the drafting of an African Inter-Parliamentary Digital Family Compact, and then we must advocate jointly, not just at this platform, but at the UN-IGF, at the ITU, and Ghana is hosting the Africa IGF this year. We're hosting here in September. I'm going to make sure that African family values is part of the conversation at the African Internet Governance Forum. And so a covenant with African prosperity. These are my closing thoughts. The children of Africa did not ask to be born into a digital age. They did not choose the algorithms that shaped their worldview, the platforms that colonize their attention, or the foreign ideologies that are being pushed into their homes. That choice belongs to us, the legislators, who are their parents, their grandparents, their uncles, and their aunties. We owe that to our children because our parents did that for us. We cannot be the generation of legislators and parents who failed the African continent. Every parliament that passes the Digital Family Protection Act, every legislature that ratifies the Malabo Convention, and every lawmaker who stands up to Silicon Valley and says, not in our homes, you will be fulfilling the oldest covenant in African governance, that obligation that we have to protect the next generation. That is who we are. I thank you very much.
Wow. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, that was the best choice to end this morning session as we enter into the afternoon, right? I think we will, most of it is factual presentation, right? It's based on research, based on governance, and we want to thank you for being with us. May I, with the permission of the leadership of this conference and being sensitive with the whole long day you've had, can we have 3 questions? And then we can close the session, because I think it was so straight that really it is food for thought for every country. Can we take one on this side? Let me give that lady. Then in the middle.
Now pick to me, eh?
I give that lady 2. And then finally, it's difficult to choose. Let me give the gentleman there. We'll see whether we can have another round. But I think that's a good presentation. We'll look at it later. Can we have the 3 questions given? And make it short, right? Go straight to the point.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the very insightful presentation. My name is Awatif, and I am from the Republic of Chad. As we discuss artificial intelligence, digital governance, and family values, I believe that we must also look beyond today's challenges and anticipate the technology that may shape our societies tomorrow. Emerging reproductive technologies, including artificial wombs and AI-assisted reproductive systems, have the potential to transform not only healthcare, but also our understanding of motherhood, family relationship, and the transmission of values from one generation to the next. In Africa, motherhood is not only a simple biological process, it is a social, cultural, and moral institution that plays a central role in family cohesion and social and child development. If technologies eventually make it possible to separate pregnancy from human mother, this could raise profound ethical, legal, and cultural questions for our societies. So my question is, should Africa wait until these technologies become widespread before it can define its position? Or should we establish ethical framework that sets clear limits and principles for technologies capable of reshaping motherhood, family, and upbringing of our future generations?
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, you also say that only 33 countries out of 54 has data protection laws. As these data protection laws are local or cross boundaries.
Thank you
And for
very
us
much.
as officials,
Yeah.
for us as officials, in terms of data protection, what platform do you prefer or most safe to use for us, like Facebook or TikTok or X? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The lady in the middle. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Sam George, for the wonderful presentation. You have actually made my day. I wanted to raise 2 issues. One, of course, you've raised the negative part of the emerging technologies like AI, and of course, there are many of them, but I think that as you raise those negative part, there are also positives. And I think we need to look at the positive aspects so that it can build us to address the gaps in terms of these emerging technologies that are affecting our young generation. And then two, since the adoption of the Malabo Convention, very few countries have ratified and even domesticated the instruments to the African Union. That means non-committal. So as a matter of fact, I think we need to make it as one of our resolutions from this meeting so that member countries can go and tussle with their member countries to make sure that they ratify and domesticate the Malabo Convention. But then that would show our commitment to our own values. And lastly, you mentioned of having a parliamentary forum on AI. For example, in the Eastern Africa, I'm a Secretary General of a Parliamentary Internet Governance Forum for Eastern African region. And then we have a Continental Internet Forum, where Honorable Bopendi is one of the founder members. I would think this is a wider, this would bring all the other aspects together than only relenting it to only AI, because there are many other emerging technologies that are destroying our African values and our children. I thought I would raise that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is a young man there I would like also, these are the users and real players in that field. Just give your question. Then we will allow Minister to answer. Then we can go for another round for 3, and then I think we can close it if possible. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. My name is Alan from the University of Ghana. Now, I would like to raise this, right? We've been building most of our tech stack on foreign softwares for a long time. Google, Amazon, cloud services, and everything. Is there any migratory, policies that will migrate our data? Since the AI policy you launched recently talks about data sovereignty, is there any migratory, techniques that we are going to use to migrate our data from these softwares into ours? Because it's actually going to be a lot of work. Most of our, let's say, systems run on foreign rails, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and they're already established things. This draws me to my second question. How do we let their community guidelines suit ours and not a foreign, inherited one here that is forcibly forcing its way into the African soil? Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. The question from Chad, and I'll try and quickly take this on. The question was, should Africa wait for tech, basically on motherhood? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you what, just look at what the technology on breast pumps did to feeding of children. It moved us away from a culture, an African culture, where a mother breastfed her own child. And there's scientific study and medical study, and there was a doctor here this morning who presented when I came in, who would explain to you the scientific benefits, biological benefits of bonding between a mother holding her newborn baby and breastfeeding her herself, vis-a-vis, even if it is the breast milk in a bottle that's been fed to the child. You see what a technology like that has been able to do to that kind of bond. Now imagine what AI will be able to do relative to artificial insemination and test tube babies and all of that. That's why we're saying that Africa must begin to take a position. Chad as a country, let's be real, we don't have the power as individual countries to fight big tech. Many of these big tech companies, their revenue is bigger than our entire national GDP. And so as individual countries, we cannot fight them. Even the European Union is not fighting them as European countries, they're fighting them as a bloc. And so the only way we can deal with big tech and begin to pass the right kind of regulatory framework is when we work as the African Union. And so it must go back to us working collectively as the African Union. We need to begin to legislate ahead of time. The 34 countries that I spoke who have data protection laws passed, many of them have done them on the back of the African framework, which is called the Malabo Convention. However, not even all the 34 who have passed it have actually ratified and submitted their instruments at the AU. So we've had that challenge. Then, is there a safe platform for legislators? Honorable members, your excellencies, anything you do on a mobile phone should be something that you are willing to stand at your national stadium and defend. There is no safe platform anywhere. So don't think I won't stand here and tell you this platform is safer than the other. If you are sending a message, you are making a call, whatever it is you are doing, so long as it's on a mobile phone, it's on a mobile device, it's on a laptop, whatever it's on, please be sure that what you are doing, if you are asked to justify it or you are asked to repeat it, you can comfortably do it at your national stadium and walk with your dignity intact. If you cannot do that, don't send it. That's my advice to you. And I say this because, look, with where I sit and what I do in government, the tools, they tell you this is an encrypted message from one end to another. Really, there's really no, anything that has a lock, for there to be a lock, it means there's a key. I need not say more. Then the second question from our lady friend from East Africa, what are the positive aspects of AI? The positive aspects are many. And there are the aspects of AI that we can use. For example, here in Ghana, I'm trying to use artificial intelligence to begin to do telemedicine so that I can have doctors attend to mothers in rural communities. The benefits exist. I'm not here to say that artificial intelligence is bad, but there must be guardrails. Look, understand this. The guys who lead artificial intelligence development in the US, Sam Altman and co. from OpenAI, Elon Musk and co. went to the US Congress